All right. Welcome, everyone, to Standing in Truth. I am your host, Gary Michael Tuttle. First and foremost, I'd like it if we could all just take a deep breath in through our nose, breathe it into your belly, into your chest, and into your shoulders. And then once you do that, we'll just hold it for as long as we can. And then we'll exhale through our mouth and purge all the air out of us and just hold that for a few seconds. So if we could just inhale through our nose, purging all that air. One more inhale. I don't know about all you, but that feels really wonderful to me. It really helps me to stay grounded and get centered. Again, welcome to the show, Standing in Truth. This should be episode 6. I have a really special guest with me tonight. We are going to talk with Jeanna Marie Aure. Um, she has agreed to come on and tell us a little bit about her journey and the path that she's on. And I think this is absolutely amazing because I had a little bit of apprehension into reaching out to her. I've been watching her post on Facebook for the last few weeks, and her message is just absolutely beautiful, and I truly resonate with it. And I think that I truly feel, not just think, I truly feel that by having her on here and being able to get her to kind of open up a little bit and tell us about her journey and her path and kind of where she's at, it's going to help many more people that are coming into the awareness of this group conscious, and they're kind of coming into this whole awakening at this time. That's what we're here for. Those of us who've been on this path, we're supposed to be leading the others down the path and giving them anything that's going to help them get to where they need to be. So that's what this show particularly is about. We're going to stand in our truths. We are going to share any information that we have that we feel is pertinent. And so I would like to first welcome Jeanna to the show. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you for inviting me. It's an absolute honor and a pleasure. Thank you.
It is very much my pleasure that you are here. I was so excited when you agreed to come on. I've been trying to figure out the way I wanted this show to go, and it seems that it's just kind of been shown to me. So it's really amazing. Like I said, I had some apprehension when I reached out, and then I just kind of said, okay, well, it is what it is. And then you instantly replied, and I was like, wow, okay, this is quite amazing. So it's very exciting for me that you're on. I guess so my first question is, when did you realize that you were kind of on the spiritual journey?
I've always been a bit different
There
in
we
that
go.
in that not but always wanting to fit in, obviously. So spiritual for me, I guess, always in many ways in the way that I connected to nature and to my environment. So that to me was a spiritual experience, and that's where I sat within spirituality. It was about nature, about my connection to animals. And it wasn't really until probably my early 30s, which would be in the early 2000s, that I started to go a little bit more deeply, into some meditation and things like that. And then I started to see things, as well. And started to read lots of books. So then I started to open in that way, but I still kept it very inward and still very private to me. It didn't feel so safe in sharing that information really with anyone.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I can totally resonate with that. I can honestly say when I first started out, I had no clue what was going on. And I was certainly not willing to share it with anyone until I had a better grasp in my own mind. Well, not even necessarily in my mind, but when I realized that I wasn't just understanding, that I was actually feeling,
Yes.
that's when it really kind of was the aha moment for me, that it's not just an understanding that I have, but that it is a feeling that I have. So my next question is, do you have any books that you've read that you recommend to anyone who's just kind of coming online, or becoming awakened into this, onto their path?
Oh, gee, that's a really hard one for me because I'm very intuitive in that way. So I used to go to shops that sort of specialized, or spaces that specialized in esoteric books and books on spirituality, um, and I would literally, something would catch my eye, and so that would be what I would choose to take and read. And so I went through a really big stage for me of um, of reading stories of psychics and their experiences and things like that. It was that I went through, that was sort of a bit of a lead in for me, but them talking about their story was really interesting for me. So all I would really suggest with that is to allow your intuition to guide you, to actually go to the store, or look online, or I mean, going to a store at the moment is not so easy, but really allow your intuition to guide you, because that's your higher self, um, your um, your team guiding you along and saying, okay, so yeah, take a look at this. And yeah, there's so many starting points, but yeah, it's always about tuning into what interests you, because then you're ignited to follow that. I find it a challenge sometimes. I can listen to someone when they're talking to me, and I feel like, okay, so that would be a really great thing for you to read, or for a direction for me to base your, to point you in a little bit. But to actually suggest on a collective level, I just feel follow your intuition, and trust it implicitly, because then you're feeding your heart, you're feeding your soul, and you're just going to get more of it.
I absolutely love that answer. A lot of people, they'll say, "Oh yeah, well I read blah blah blah, and then I read blah blah blah, and I read blah blah blah." Um,
Yeah.
but for you to say, "Well, I just kind of followed my intuition, and this interested me, and I grabbed this," but you didn't give a title, you didn't give an author, and to me that's amazing, because I mean to me that's what it's about. It's about following our intuition. That's what led me to reach out to you, was just following my intuition. So that is an awesome, awesome answer. I absolutely love that answer. So I would really, really like to know, kind of, and it doesn't have to be beginning to end or anything like that, but like, how did you kind of like, once you knew, right? Like once you knew you were on this spiritual path, and you started learning these things, can you kind of, kind of give us an insight as to some of the things that happened that kind of led you there, or?
Yeah, I can. I always had like earth guides, earth angels, that would would give me something. Maybe it was a book, or maybe it was various things, or say something, or maybe you should go and do this. And I wouldn't be asking them about anything, or really talking about anything, but they would just come into my life at the right time, at a beautiful time, really gifts, and yeah, and offer me something. So I would go, oh, okay, and my ears would just prick up. I would just trust that there would be something that would well up inside me, and I'd go, oh yes, that. It's that remembering that you don't know that you're remembering at that point, but there's that instant connection and drawing to that. So um so that happened a lot for me. So um I for me, a dear friend of mine, I was always, quite frightened of psychics and all of that sort of stuff. I'm just like, oh my gosh, they're going to see my whole life. And I had a pretty traumatic, in that journey through that. And I'm like, I just don't want to go through all of that sort of stuff. But I had a really good friend of mine say to me about a lady, and I said, oh, okay, I might as well go and see her. I put myself out there, and she just told me all of the stuff um, about myself as who I was, about my past, but how she saw me in the future as well. Um, which the future was just like, I just can't get my head around that. It was basically who I am now, and more. And I just was thinking, there's just no way, with all of these opening up of my own gifts and my own experiences and speaking to more people and remembering who I am, and really embracing the angelic side of me, because there's a very angelic essence that comes through for me. That is something I own now, and I walk in that, and I have no problem saying it. Whereas, I was just felt really outlandish back then. And I've had many people come into my life at different times to remind me of that, and I've gone, no, don't want to hear it, don't want to see it, don't want to know about that sort of stuff. Which has been, which has been great. But so that was probably my first experience with that. And then from here, I started really to look more into meditation. And just brief sort of periods of meditation. I just do short meditations to go into exploring things a little bit more. Also, because internally I was always seeking peace. I always felt that the outside world was very tumultuous, and I lived within quite a tumultuous relationship as well, with my partner and I. It was pretty tumultuous, so I was always, seeking that peace and that balance. So I would sort of sneak off and go within a lot more, which is something that I've always been comfortable doing, that withdrawing aspect. I think empaths, we do that. We give, and, which is the pattern, and give so much love and overflow it on everyone. And then it's all of a sudden, it's like, oh my gosh, need to go within and find that peace again. So I think I lived in depletion for a very long time, actually, which I don't now. I've realized now, I listen to what's going on. I know, when I need to pull back a little bit, and I know how to top myself up really, really quickly and to receive what I need. So, so that was that. And then from there, so I was actually a teacher for, I can say 20 years now, over 20 years. So right from when I left school, I went and started working with young children. And then I worked my way through and worked with primary school children. And then I worked with secondary school children. And then I sort of finished working with special education, children in special education. So that was a really big part of my life for a very, very long time. And it gave me a lot of skills, definitely gave me a lot of skills. It was very difficult to be, towards the end especially, who I was within that system. So, which is eventually why I left that. But I also, I was longing for a change, and I kept dipping my toes into other things. So while I was teaching, I went and did a coaching course, a life coaching course. It's a long, long time ago now. I studied for a little while. I didn't actually complete the course because I got bored. It was very dry and strict, and I loved all of the actual coaching, and I did all of the practical stuff, but the paper side of it was just a bit dry for me. I'm creative, so I like to be creative in my formats, not necessarily follow the rules. Because my rules are the person who I'm connecting with. That's where I meet that person, I meet in their heart, and I meet their higher self, and I see their higher aspect. So that was interesting. But it was great because that led me on a whole other journey. Um, led me on a whole other journey. And I started doing a little bit of, I called it mentoring while I was still teaching. Um, and it was interesting, the people that came to see me, they were very, I could see some of my past reflected in them, and not necessarily me, but people from my past coming back, showing me things that was like, wow, okay. It was a really interesting process for me, a very interesting process. And then one time, and then I got given, and then this is the other miraculous thing that happened. Someone just out of the blue, I was living in New Zealand at this point, and someone just out of the blue offered me a ticket to Anthony Robbins, the man with the big teeth.
Mhm.
And I only knew him as the man with the big teeth, to be honest. I didn't really know a lot about this person. But I was in New Zealand, and it was a free ticket that I was given. I looked at it and I'm like, well, I've been given this for a reason. It was for a weekend. I thought, I'm going to do it. So I took off, flew to Sydney, Australia for a long weekend, and did that by myself, went by myself. And it was just love for me. The energy in the room, a lot of that stuff is pretty full on, but what I actually loved about it, and what I thrived on, and what I connected to, was the feeling of such connection in the space, and love of all of these people in one space was just incredible for me. I was just like, oh my God, there is so much love. There's more, I feel more myself in this environment than what I do in many other environments. So I took a lot from that, actually, from that experience. And it gave me a lot of hope, and it gave me a lot of faith, that the world could be different, that we could live in that space of love, in that space of joy. And so that's really what I took from that. And it was a gift. It was such a gift for me at the perfect time in my life, to be honest. And then one of the other gifts that happened around that similar time, so there was a bit of tragedy in there. I tried with my ex-husband. We tried for a number of years, a lot of years, to have children, and that just wasn't happening. And I'm perfectly, I'm at peace with that, and I understand it as part of my journey now, totally. But it was a very difficult, challenging time for me, especially because I felt very alone. It was quite a lonesome time to be going through, and especially with someone who, bless his heart, who wasn't really equipped to deal with that sort of, the depth of where I was with it. And that was a wonderful part of my journey. But one of my friends then also gave me, I'd walked past a little shop in town, close to the town that I was living in, well, just in my walking distance, and I saw a sign outside the cafe that I'd been in, and there was a lady upstairs who did massage and Reiki. And I just saw the word Reiki. I'd never heard of Reiki before. Saw the word Reiki, and I'm like, oh, Reiki, gosh. That was just like a trigger for me. It was one of those points again where I had a little bit of a light bulb, and I thought, I want to go and see her. And I had things going on, so I didn't make it happen. So a good friend of mine actually went and bought me, gifted me for my birthday, a massage and a Reiki session with this lady, who was also a nurse. So I went to her, and from the moment I lay down on the table, she put her hands on me. The tears just started, and I wasn't sobbing or anything, but I just had these little tears that just kept going the whole time. It was just love coming through. I could just feel love, pure love coming through. And I started visioning and seeing things, and um, really connecting in that way there as well. And I just, yeah, it was so beautiful. It was so loving, so gentle, so beautiful. And I was just like, wow, I'm going to do that. That's something I'm going to do. And, but I filed it away, as you do, filed it away and carried on teaching and walking that path of what I perceived as being the normal path. Can't be too different back then. Um, and then I've been very drawn to move over here to Australia for a long time. Been very called to this country, to this land, to the Glasshouse Mountains, where I live very close to. I have lived here previously, and I think I mentioned that on my last Facebook Live. I have lived here for a year previously, and I always wanted to come back. There was something that drew me back. So, yeah, finally persuaded my husband at the time. It took a long time for us both to get, I guess, the courage to leave our country and move our whole lives, our animals. We had a dog and a cat then. Move the animals over here as well, do a family shift. Um, yeah, to here. So I've been here for 11 years now. But yeah, that was a really big pivotal point for me. And actually, going to Tony Robbins helped me with that as well, just that courage, to really step into living your dreams. And I'm just like, yeah, life's too short, just going to do this. So I made it happen. So I left teaching for a while, and we came here. And the first year was really, really challenging, really hard. Yeah, because I'd sort of then moving here had sort of had left all my support networks in the fact that being in a very challenging relationship, having a challenging marriage, it was, I had no one had no one to do to actually sort of support me as well when I needed to. So that was a really challenging first year, and I actually had some health issues that came up at that time. I was um, misdiagnosed with breast cancer, and they were scheduling surgery and had all this. I'd literally been in Australia for a few months and had just gone to have a checkup, and it just turned into this big snowball of stuff happening. And so I went through a whole big learning curve with that, because I totally refused to believe that I had it. For some reason, I was able to tune in. I got this message that I had energy blocked that had built up over a period of time, and that's what it was. And yeah, but in the meantime, I had this surgeon that was very belittling, very much, very authoritarian, very bullying is what I will say as well. So my surgery was actually booked in twice, and twice I pushed it aside. But I was also battling my partner at the time, because he wanted me to have the surgery, and I didn't want, because he was scared, he was frightened, he really believed that I had, this, and that the surgery would be the best thing. And I just knew it wasn't, because they were removing parts of me that I knew that did not need to be removed. So I had this ensuing battle, and again, a little earth angel came along into my life, and being a nurse the first time, who rescheduled my surgery, and then I was able to go back and get all my tests redone, and another earth angel was there, who I'd gone to see, I think, to clear some energy. Because I had the epiphany about energy blockages, I thought, right, I need someone, and discovered a lady who she actually did that for me, but she also said to me at the time, this is about you standing in your power, you taking your power back. And it was just a light bulb moment for me. So I went back and said to the surgeon, right, I just want all my tests done again. I'm not having the surgery. And he tried everything in his power. And eventually we agreed, and I went and had all the tests, and they all came back inconclusive. Everything was inconclusive still, but not pointing to the fact that it was. And I just trusted that it wasn't 100%. And he ended up saying to me, well, I believe that you're right. And if anything comes up in the future, we'll deal with it. But I believe that you're right. So, yeah, so that was a big thing for me. That was my first year here. Almost decided to go back to New Zealand, but then we moved up here to Mullaney and things changed again. I went back to teaching, sort of went back to my comfort zone. When I was the first year, I was dabbling a bit in mentoring and coaching and things like that, but I just didn't have a lot of confidence, just putting myself out there in a whole new place. But yeah, moved up here, and then things changed again. Started teaching, and then one day I guess I had another dark night of the soul, had plenty of those. Each time coming out more, stronger and stronger, and seeing more and more. But I went through the stage of, I just felt so alone, felt so alone in my relationship. I felt so disconnected from everything. And my ex-husband was doing his best with his work and all of those things, so he was really focused in that direction, and I was working too, but I was really missing a deep sense of connection. Yeah, and so that sort of sent me into a bit of a spin for a little while. I got quite suicidal. I never did anything, but I had suicidal thoughts. And again, my relationship was very tumultuous, and I did not know how to escape that, to be honest, because I felt so alone. So it was, I stayed within that. And then one day I just said, a message came through, because I'd sort of stopped meditating. I was doing the odd bit of meditating, but I had stopped that connection, lost that connection. And then one day I got a message come through about Reiki. And I just said, oh, I'm going to go and learn Reiki now. And I no sooner said that, literally no sooner said that, my husband at the time had a client who worked at a day spa here, and had gifted it was a new day spa that opened, had gifted both he and I anything that we wanted at the day spa. And so I got this voucher, and I opened it up, and it had massages and all of these beautiful things, and then it had Reiki at the bottom of it, which was like totally random, especially in this place. It's really an amazing place. And I was just like, wow, they do Reiki. So I thought, well, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go and have a Reiki treatment with this lady. So I did. I went to see Chris. No sooner had I asked, and that's the clue. I asked the question. I said, I'm ready. I'm going to do this, and it came. It was, divine, amazing.
Divine,
So
very divine.
yeah, so I went and had that, and yeah, that was beautiful. Different energy with this lady, and she just said to me straight away when she saw me, she said, "You're meant to be doing something like this as well." She was very, very psychic, very, looking at her, she was not of this planet. Like, as soon as I walked in, I was just like, wow, she's not of this planet at all. She's, I see, yeah, quite interesting. And so she just said, look, I also teach Reiki, and she was psychic and a channel and things as well. And so I then, and this is 2012. So then I went and did my level 1, 2 and master level through her. And it all just, for me, that opened up even more. I started to see more. I started to feel more. I knew that, I learned how just by even touching someone, there was healing that was coming through. I could feel it always coming through. Every time I thought about it, I could feel the healing flowing through me. into people. I just need to think about them. It was amazing. It was just like the switch had gone on and it just all came through. And every time it was just like love was just pouring through me to, to whoever I thought about or whoever I touched. But I've been told that it's always been like that, but I just was not aware of that as well. So I became very aware of that. And it is to me energy, Reiki, that energy that I channel that comes through is just pure love. And that, yeah, so it's such a gift to be able to share that in that way. So she was also psychic, and she did a few channeled messages for me, wrote me a few channeled messages that were just like gifts to me. And when I got those, I was sort of quite blown away. It was very similar to the messages I had received from the first lady I'd ever gone to see as a psychic, talking about my path, where I was going, who I truly was, all of this sort of stuff. And I'm just like, oh, I don't know about this. I'm not ready to see it yet. I'm not ready to see it. So I literally filed those away. And then one day she called me and she said, can you come and see me? And I said, sure. She says, I need to attune you to something. She says, I've been told that I need to attune you, and then you need to attune me. And I'm like, okay. So I just trusted in what was going on. And so I went to see her, and she did an attunement on me and told me at the time it was Christ consciousness coming through, which I'd never heard of. I had never heard of that. And I was just like, okay, all right, we'll just do this. And then so I did the attunement on her, and and I just sort of filed that away. And I just, with the Reiki, I just filed that away actually in the back of my mind. It was there, but I didn't really think about that too much. So then I just went about my life. I was still teaching. I was sharing Reiki with people that just came into my life. I was just, and generally mentoring. When I shared Reiki, it just came through me, when they were telling me their story, because I always had people tell me their story, or, why they came to me in the first place. So then it would open up a line, and, stuff would come through for them. And I just called it mentoring. And so we would work through that, and then by the time they came onto the table, and because I'm a hands-on Reiki practitioner, when I have someone in front of me, I like to put my hands on them. It's just a natural drawing in, because a lot of Reiki is about above. But yeah, so there was always so much healing that came through that, and I would almost go out of body, pretty much be out of body. My body was taken over. I was basically the conduit for the energy to come through. Yeah,
I feel that.
Yeah, so I had a lot of people. Well, I had a number of people that very intuitive and see things as well. Tell me a lot of things that they would see when they were on the table with me. That they would actually see that they would see that there were about 8. I had about 8 healers coming through at the same time, and they would literally feel me, think I was at one part of their body, and they would look at that part of their body. I wasn't there. I was somewhere else completely. It's happened over and over, and I was starting to think, wow, so there really is something going on here. Really is something going on with that. So yeah, that just became part of my practice, and I gave myself a lot of Reiki in that time too, to re-establish a connection back into myself. And then I gave up teaching because I just couldn't fit into the system anymore. It was sad, because I always adored working with children, especially in the special education sector, which was so needed, to be an advocate and, a support in that space. but I gave it up because it just wasn't serving me any longer. And thought, right, I'm just going to focus on Reiki and mentoring, which I did. It was hard because I didn't have a lot of confidence. I didn't know really how to put myself out there, and people just found me as they needed me, and that was fine. So then another dark night of the soul came along,
Mm.
um, where I just pretty much I felt, my relationship was just so heavy. Was the relationship I was in was just so heavy, and it just, I felt like I was living a lie, really, living a bit of a double life,
Yeah.
with what was happening, and here I am as a, you know, people coming to me to receive healing, and telling me their stories, and I'm going in my mind, wow, jeepers, I don't feel comfortable because I'm not being in my truth. But so I sort of started to deviate a little bit from the healing, and I was searching for something else. And then it was a dark night of the soul again. I had those thoughts of not wanting to be here, um, and never did anything. And then the next thing came along, and it was yoga. Yoga, and I've always practiced yoga. Well, I've practiced yoga for a long, long time, but always, for myself. So actually, once again, my ex-husband said to me, "Why don't you go and do yoga teaching, and we can work together?" Because he was a trainer, and I guess I was searching for another thing that would make me feel connected, and so eventually I agreed, and it was great. My teaching, the training I did was an immersion where I was actually completely immersed in like an ashram type situation, but it wasn't. It was here in Australia, in a yoga school, for the time of my training. And so I was completely out of the home environment, completely out of everything. And again, I just discovered that sense of inner peace, total inner peace that I had been searching for and craving my whole life. I just felt like myself, my love could flow through, and total harmony. And it was really hard for me to come back, actually. I seriously contemplated, maybe I should just go live there. Maybe I could, escape this life and go and live there. But I didn't. I came back and became reacquainted with the real world, um, and relationship and things like that, and started this yoga teaching journey, which I adored, absolutely adored being a yoga teacher, especially at the beginning. And I got used to being in front of more people again, adults this time. And because teaching becomes natural, is quite a natural thing for me to guide and to teach. So, which I never really realised so much with groups of people, with groups of adults, groups of grown-ups, which I always found a bit scary. um, but I actually discovered that I could do that, and I actually really enjoyed it. And so that was sort of 4 or 5 years of actually really enjoying that. Working with my husband, which was challenging, really challenging. We're very different, very, very different. And so much taken from that, so much learned from that. And then what I started to happen is some of the yoga I started to love teaching was yin yoga, which is very long, slow, deep yoga, where it very long, slow, deep poses. And I would just really walk around the room and talk and take people on journeys with my voice. And the stories that used to come out, and I didn't realize at the time really that I was channeling, but there was a lot of stuff just coming out, people, and they'd just be totally zoned out. It was quite amazing, really. I realized the power of what was happening and the healing that was happening, because it was just that class just became huge, became really, really huge. Um, and I was like, wow, there's something in this. I'm taking people into this meditative space, and then I can just bring through in a large group all of this healing that these people need, so that they're seeking. And so that was really, really beautiful epiphany for me. Um, really beautiful epiphany for me, actually, to be able to start to hold that space in that way. And it's really humbling to have that.
So amazing you've had all these
Yeah,
experiences.
share that gift. Yeah, well, it's just amazing. I'm humbled by what I have been able to do. So, and spirit and earth angels and people, I've just been so gifted in that those times where I've needed something, it's there. I've asked for it and I'm like, what am I going to do now? And then, and they're asking that question, it's like, boom, here it is.
Right.
Yeah. And I just think, okay, thank you. And I jump on, I trust in that. But I've had to get pretty low to get there, and that's not the case. We don't have to get that low to get there. We can ask that question at any time,
Right.
from
But
that
it's
space of,
usually once we get to a low, that's when we start asking those questions. Even though
it is.
we can ask it at any time, it usually takes us getting to a very low point in our lives before we start
Yeah.
asking questions and getting answers.
Yeah. It's so true. And as soon as you trust that, you just get more and more and more. And I guess, I had trust in it, but I also had a little bit of, I wasn't 100% trusting in it, you know.
Right.
But certain times it felt really, really strong. And I'm just like, yeah, I'm on that. Thank you. And away I would go. And then, so, 4 years of doing that. And then I called time on my marriage. It just got so literally, and I feel like my higher self stepped into that. I literally woke up one morning, and the morning started off in the worst possible way for me personally as a peaceful person. And I just felt someone step into my body and say, literally out of my mouth, and this whole other voice came out of me that just said, that's enough. This is over. Can't do it anymore. And so went through, that was that was challenging, actually, because for me, I was 100% sure, 100% certain. I knew, I'd been thinking about it for a very long time, and I just didn't have the courage. And so that courage just came in. It was time. And, it was like
Totally
an
understand
intervention.
that.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
like an intervention. And so, that I'm not going to go into detail on any of that, but basically that led me into pretty much, so that was November in 2018, I think, 2018. And so from there, I just, I went to a shaman, actually. The first time, just when I decided, when it came out of my mouth, and before my ex-husband had moved out of the house, I was just like, I never ever want to go through this in my life again. I just said, I never ever want to go through what I've been through in my life again. I never want to attract people into my life that, like what I've experienced. I only
Yeah.
want beautiful people in my life.
Yeah.
And so scrolling through Facebook, and then there's this sponsored ad just popped up in my face, literally said that. And there was a man visiting, he was a shaman, and he worked with sound healing and things. And I just thought, oh, I think I'll go and do that. So I went to see him, had no idea what I was getting into, because if I had known, I might never have gone. It was full on. But yeah, so I went to him, and he basically, we went back into like right in my early childhood, well, actually my early teenage years, and what it was, I was terrified of, what kept coming back in my life for me to look at. Yeah, so we did some healing around that. Um, And from there, it started my journey of like, okay, I'm going to start looking at everything now. I'm going to look at everything. I'm going to pull all of those things out, all of those things, all of those years, everything I can remember and can't remember. I'm actually going to bring them all out and look at them now and heal them. So I spent pretty much all of last year, 2019, a lot of last year, 2019, pulling those things out and examining them and looking at the child, seeing me as the child, seeing all of that sort of thing, and really going deeply into the healing of that and the integration, the deep shadow work, the shadow dancing,
Hmm.
um, which then also led me into some past life stuff as well that came up and came through. And that was really interesting. But yeah, I pulled back from having to be a busy person. I'd gone and started a new business with yoga myself. Um, and I sort of had sort of a great balance with that, and me having a lot of time on my own, which I needed. And so, I just went into this really deep place whenever something came up for me. I just went into a really deep place with it, figured out what I needed to do, and did the work, basically. Really dedicated myself to it, which I know is hard for a lot of people. It's really
Oh yeah.
challenging. Yeah, because it's quite scary, um and it does take dedication, um but it's so worth it. It's
Absolutely.
just so,
I
yeah,
agree with that.
yeah, it's amazing. So I learned so much about myself and learned about setting boundaries as well, which was one of the first things I had to learn. But learned so much about valuing myself and seeing myself for who I was. And then as I started to really go there, more started to come through. Once again, I was ready for the next stage of what was for me,
Right.
of who I am. And I really started to take on board then, what I'd been told about Christ consciousness and what I had channeled to me from other people, and all of those things. I really started to look at that and go, wow, that is actually me. That is me. That is who I am. And I'm, ready to embrace that now.
That's really
And I'm,
amazing how you've been able to go back and kind of collect those pieces and kind of add them back to yourself once you came to the understanding. Um,
yeah,
I know that part of part of shaman work is helping people collect those pieces of themselves and put those pieces back where they belong.
yeah,
So it's very interesting that you brought that up. That's awesome that you were able to actually do that yourself. Like you knew where the
yeah,
pieces were and you went and got them and put them back like that. I mean, there's
yeah.
yeah, that's amazing, truly.
Well, I will tell you, YouTube became my best friend. Um, because I would just have something would come up, a question would come up for me, and I would sort of ask that question, or something would come up, a trigger, and I'd ask the question, and then I'd literally open up YouTube or something, and there would be someone or something with an offering about that. So I received, yeah, I honestly, for me, I'm just like so grateful for technology
Yeah,
because it's so helped my journey so much. Um, and yeah, and because I decided to follow that, I trusted it. I'd open it up and then there'll be something there, and I'm like, wow, okay, I need to do that. And so I just dive into it and go deeper and deeper and deeper. Um, yeah, it was amazing actually. Such a gift to be able to receive healing in that way and guidance in that way. So YouTube, everyone, YouTube, and
yeah,
we say these things about face to face and all of those things, but there are just so many that we come through. The divine comes through in so many different ways. So yeah, whatever you're drawn to is just jump into that and yeah, dive right in and be
yeah.
brave.
Follow your passion,
Yeah,
whatever. Like if you see something and it lights a fire, go for it.
yeah,
Follow it,
yeah,
whether it creates fear or not. Because I mean, that's what led me to do the show. That's what led me to bring Gina
yeah,
on here. So
Thank you.
truly, all these things, you know, everything that she said, I can truly resonate with. I'm sure you've seen my head bouncing up and down.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
blown away. Like some of the things that you've talked about, I so resonate with. Like there's so many things that you brought up where I could have interrupted and said, "Oh my God, that's so familiar to me. I This happened to me and this happened too." And then, but I want to hear, like I really wanted to hear everything. So I'm so grateful that you were able to share so much of your story with us. I know that we had said that we only wanted to go about an hour, and it has been actually just over an hour now. And I don't want
Don't
to keep you. I definitely don't want to keep you any longer than any time that you have. But I am so grateful, and I thank you so much for sharing so much with us. It's been, I'm wow. I'm truly like, I'm gonna have to
worry.
rewatch the show just to catch everything again, because there was so much that I resonated with, and so much that was so like, so many things that have happened in your life I've seen where that's, you know, these things have happened to me, and it's been similar but different. And I just, that's I that's what makes this so amazing, is the divine timing of everything. You have displayed so many instances of divine timing tonight.
Yes,
Like you have just you've exemplified what it is to literally stand in your truth, to show us kind of what divine timing is. So if there's anybody out there that's been, you know, questioning these things that are happening, there truly are no coincidences. Everything happens for a reason. You can never not be on your path. You're always on your path. You may be facing the wrong way, but you're still on your path. So just
yeah,
know that when these little synchronicities, these little coincidences happen, it happened for a reason. It's to show you which way to go. It's, you know, like she was saying, earth angels, divine guidance. You know, literally, you, if you just can take some time to get alone, and you know, whether you call it meditation, whether you call it prayer, whether you call it, you know, it doesn't really matter what you call it. Just get some time to be alone and kind of let things flow to you without any kind of resistance. And it can be difficult, but there's, like she said, YouTube. I mean, go to YouTube. There's so many meditations out there. Like that's one of the things that's been my like saving grace over the past probably 2 years, is being able to go on YouTube and find exactly what I need, you know. And it's crazy how I'll be thinking of, geez, I'd like to do a meditation to meet my spirit guides, and I'll be scrolling through YouTube, and it's in my news feed. Oh, well, there it is right there, you know, divine timing. So, okay, it's time to listen to this one. Sit right down and listen to it, you know, or at least save it so that I can listen to it at a more convenient time. So,
yes.
yeah, it's wow. Just I'm kind of giddy over here. It's been
We're
it's been awesome.
we're all the same. We are all the same. This is the thing, you know.
Yeah,
There is no separation between us. So, and that's every one of us. And so our journeys, you know, we might they weave and wind and all of those beautiful things. But at the end of the day, it's all the same, and we're all the same, and we all end up at the same place,
yeah,
you know. And that's, if we just keep following the heart, allow the heart to lead, and the rest will follow.
yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
Is there? I know we've been on quite a bit. Is there anything that you'd really like to like? Is there any specific thing that you'd like to say?
um Really, you know, the message that I have for every every soul, every being on this amazing amazing planet that we live on, having this amazing experience, which I know does not feel amazing sometimes, you know, it really doesn't. And but it's all purposeful, and trust in that. But just to know how loved you are, how deeply, deeply loved you are, and that you are here to be loved, that you are here to be love, and for you to remember that you are love. And what it comes down to is that you are love, and remembering that. And that's where we come back into the heart. And it was beautiful the way you began the meeting as well, the podcast as well, Gary, where we breathed up into the heart. And to me, the moment we even just drop our awareness into our heart and then bring our breath in, is that we're straight there. We're in love. We're in that space of peace and love, harmony and grace, which is all you are.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So amazing. Jeanna, again, thank you for being on the show and sharing so much of your story with us. I hope that we get a chance to catch up and do this again. I'd love to maybe hear a little. Um, Actually, I'd love to talk maybe after this for a couple of minutes and just kind of pick your brain a little bit. But for now, I'm going to say thank you, everyone, no matter where you are. I hope that you get a chance to resonate with some of this. I really appreciate that you got a chance to watch this. If you haven't yet, subscribe, hit the notification button so you know when I do post. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Namaste.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here.
Namaste. Thank you for inviting me.